Hello everyone, Minute Plus Meditation here, Friday, July the 21st, the Feast of St. Lawrence of Brindisi, the doctor of the Church. Unfortunately, most of his writings are still in Latin. And vast majority of people don't know any Latin. So that's a tragedy. From the book of Exodus, Moses and Aaron performed many wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go out of his land. So, and we know what's going to follow, but it's this phrase, the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. Did the Lord actually harden? Like I can reach out and, punch somebody or push somebody. Did the Lord harden Pharaoh's heart? No, not that way we think so. But this is a human way of saying, because of Pharaoh's stubbornness and arrogance and pride, his unwillingness to listen, that God withdrew grace from him, and as a result of this, his heart became hardened. Always consequences, as I said a while ago in a meditation. Always consequences to our decision. And if we think we're just all unto ourselves, and we can get away with doing whatever we want, there's going to be no consequences, we are going to be sadly mistaken. And so when because we are dealing not only with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers, with demonic forces that are just waiting to pounce on us. But God protects us in more ways than we can acknowledge, or we know about, I should say. And so this was all the result of Pharaoh's free, prideful decisions. And so God hardening his heart is God withdrawing his grace, his protective grace, or whatever special grace that Pharaoh had to be a good leader. And as a result of this, basically, Pharaoh, you want me out, I'll get out, and you're on your own. And Pharaoh became worse and worse and worse, to the point where he would lose everything that he cherished, because he was so arrogant and so full of pride, thinking that he was God. And we see this, in the readings to come. Or to the gospel. On the Sabbath, Jesus went through the grain fields. His disciples were hungry. They picked the grain. The Pharisees criticized them. And Jesus says to them, have you not read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? Of course they knew this, but they were picking on everything. This is like using anything to kind of criticize somebody. David entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which it was not lawful for him or his companions to eat, but only for the priests. Have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple break the Sabbath and yet are guiltless? So in other words, stop your petty, ridiculous, sort of arguments here, trying to pin me down. It's not going to work. Look at your own selves. Look at yourself in the mirror, though I don't think they had mirrors. But you get my point. They wanted to use anything they could against Jesus. And sometimes people are like that with us, or we can be like that also, is that we become so stubborn, we'll look at anything, we'll forget the facts, we forget our own example. Like they knew this stuff in their own scriptures, and yet they still would pick on these people. The fact that they were taking grain, they were plucking heads of grain to eat, meant that they were really hungry. So the apostles lived a life of what we would call poverty. With Jesus, it was not easy. And yet they still, nitpick on this kind of stuff. And Jesus defends his apostles. He defends the natural right, to eat and not starve to death. And he basically says, go home and, you should be studying your own Bible and really study the whole thing. And then he, of course, says, I tell you something greater than the temple is here. But if you had known what this means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. So it's important that we respect the precepts of the church, contemporizing this situation from the scriptures. For example, like to go to Mass on Sunday and the hour fast, before the reception of the Eucharist. These things are for our good. But if somebody is sick, obviously they're not obligated to go to Mass. If somebody's a diabetic, obviously they can eat before receiving communion if they have to, in terms of the time cycle. But if we can go and we don't go, it's a sin. If we can fast and we don't fast and we remember and know what we're doing, yeah, it's a sin. So we need to, of course, be doing these things for love and not simply because we have to. And that's something we can all reflect on as we go through the day. God bless you.